Before I get started, I'd like to give a huge shout out to Film Riot, who are currently holding a 1-minute film competition in collaboration with Filmstro. We're one of the many sponsors of the competition, so there are some awesome HitFilm prizes included for all the winners. If you'd like to learn more about the competition and learn how to enter, click the link in the description. And now, it's over to Ghost Ollie. Hey guys, and welcome back to another HitFilm tutorial. This week I'll be taking over to show you how to create this headless ghost effect. For this tutorial, I'll be using HitFilm Express along with the Chroma Key and Light Sword Ultra Glow effects. We'll be giving the first 20 people 50% off the VFX Neon Lights pack, so be sure to click the link in the description. Remember to subscribe, and with that, let's get started. This tutorial has been inspired by the various versions of Headless Horseman you may have seen in films such as Sleepy Hollow, as well as ghosts from the Harry Potter series, namely Nearly Headless Nick.
Nearly headless? How can you be nearly headless?
Like this.
To begin, we'll need some footage. For this, I shot myself on a green screen background with the green screen suit over my head. For the second shot, I wore the green screen suit again, but this time with my head on show and holding my hair up so that it would look like I was suspended by my hair. I then got a picture of the top I was wearing and finally got a shot of the clean plate of the background I wanted to use. Keep in mind that this could be anything. I used the office for this example, but why not try a castle or a forest at night? The two green screen pieces of footage will be brought together to build the final ghost effect, head holding and all. I'll open up HitFilm and create a new project with the 1080p Full HD at 25 FPS template and import all of my media. Bring both green screen body shots and color image into a composite shot and use the Chroma Key effect to get rid of all the green that we can see. Set the pre-blur to your liking. Then open up the matte sub-settings and adjust the clip foreground so that the background disappears. And the softness until the edge looks natural. The keying can be done using the color difference key or hue and RGB key in Express, but the Chroma Key effect makes it a whole lot easier. If you weren't able to get a green screen suit to cover your face, you can also manually mask your head off your body. Watch this tutorial to learn how to animate masks. For the head layer and the collar layer, I'll also create a couple of masks using the freehand mask tool to ensure that they're the only things visible in that layer. Now we need to begin attaching these layers to each other. To start, I'll attach the collar to the jumper. On the jumper layer, do a 2-point track on the edges of the existing collar. See Axel's motion tracking tutorial for this. Once this is finished, create a point layer and name it Collar Track. Now apply the track data to the collar track point layer, remembering to select to include the rotation. Make sure the collar layer is beneath the jumper layer and adjust the anchor point so that it sits in the center of the collar before adjusting the position and rotation of the collar to make it sit in place on the jumper. Finally, parent the collar layer to the collar track point layer and it will now follow the jumper around. Depending on how much movement your jumper has, turning on motion blur might help it blend better. We're now going to attach the head to the hand by following a similar process. Create another 2-point track on the jumper layer and track either side of the hand in case there is any rotation. Create another point layer and call it hand track and apply the track data, including the rotation, to this layer. Change the head anchor point to sit where the hand would be gripping it and adjust the position so that it sits on the hand. Moving the anchor point to the top of the head makes the rotation more accurate. Finally, parent the head to the hand track layer, and this step is done. You may have noticed that the head is sitting above the hand, and no masking is going to fix that nicely. So the next step is to create an animated mat to cover up the hair. To do this, duplicate the hand track point layer, create a new plane layer which I've called hand plane, and use the freehand mask tool to create a hand-shaped plane. Feather the mask and parent the plane to the duplicated track point. Right-click both of these layers and select Create Composite Shot, called Hand Mat. Now, in the Ghost Composite, turn off the Hand Mat composite layer which has just been created from the previous two layers. Duplicate the jumper layer, renaming the new one Hand. Add the Set Matte effect and set the source layer to the Hand Mat composite shot we just created. It uses the alpha layer of the mask composite shot to restrict the jumper layer to just the hand area. I also spent a little time here keyframing the rotation property on the head layer to make it wiggle as my hand moves. This is an optional step, but I thought it helped add a little realism. Try setting the keyframes to smooth or manual Bezier for more control. Now it's time to make a ghost. Start by selecting the background image in the media panel and selecting Make Composite Shot. I'll call it Final Composite. I'll apply some effects to this layer as I want it to look like it was shot at night with just a single light left on. Add the curves effect, bringing the light areas of the image down to around 75% on the y-axis. Then add a hue, saturation and lightness effect to lower the saturation to around -40 and the lightness to about -5. The final effect we need to add is the vignette effect. I'll adjust the settings to fit my scene. Horizontal and vertical stretch to 1.4, softness to 0.9, curvature to 0.6, and strength to 0.95. I'll also adjust the vignette center to around -962 by 292, so that the office slowly fades to black as we get closer to the camera. Some other tweaks are clearly needed to make this appear darker. We need shadows. Create a black plane layer above the background image and rename it to Shadow. To this, I'll add a number of different semi-transparent masks to any areas that emit light, such as the office in the background and the windows and door. Most masks will need to be set to add, but I'll add a couple to subtract shadow from areas which would remain lit. You can lower how much the masks take out by adjusting the opacity of that mask. Now bring the Ghost Composite into the Final Composite, above the background layer. Some of the techniques here are similar to the Force Ghost tutorial which Javert made a little while ago and can be found here. To begin, create a duplicate of the Ghost Composite layer and set the blend to overlay to stop the effect looking too washed out. Place this under the original and set the opacity to around 85%. On the original Ghost Composite layer, set the opacity to something lower before applying effects. Mine is set to 27%. Add the hue, saturation and lightness effect to drop the saturation down to around -50. Then, add the Light Sword Ultra Glow Only effect, which can be found in the VFX Neon Lights pack and gives us the ghostly glow. Within the inner glow settings, lower the width to around 60 pixels. Change the color to the color you want your ghost to be, in my case white, and set the alpha to around 0.2. The outer glow allows us to create a cool ghostly outline to the ghost. I'll set the width to 120 pixels change the color to white, set the alpha to about 0.25 and the fall off to about 0.5, and then we take a look at the distortion settings. Here you'll need to increase the amount of distortion. I'll set it to 35 pixels and keep the type as heat and mode as distort. Remember to play around with these settings so that you get the look you're after. You'll notice that the areas in front of the light in the background layer are just a little too visible. We actually want the opposite to happen here, so to counter this, I'll create a rectangular mask around the whole ghost layer. I'll then make two smaller elliptical masks where the light is shining through the ghost. Set these to subtract and adjust their opacity to between 60 and 80%. I want the ghost to show up a little more. There's just a little too much of the background shining through. So to achieve this, I'll duplicate the background layer, placing it above the original, and apply the set matte effect, using the ghost layer as the source. I'll then add a slight blur using the blur effect, set to around 5 pixels. Finally, I need to do a little bit of grading to tie the effect together and help the effect pop out a little more, as it's currently looking quite flat. Add a grade layer to the top of the layer stack. To this, I'll apply the curves effect to start with. I want to increase the contrast, but there's not a lot of white in the frame, so I'll lower the slider on the x-axis to around the halfway point. Now, I'll make a subtle S shape, increasing the contrast. Apply the hue, saturation and lightness effect and increase the overall saturation by about 5. It's a very tiny change, but it all adds something. To help create a shine around the ghost, I'll add the auto volumetrics effect and tweak the light source property. I'll lower the threshold to 0.1 and the exposure to -8. Finally, add a diffuse effect to diffuse the light within the scene ever so slightly. I'll set the radius to 5 and the opacity to 0.4. And that's it! Now you have a headless ghost. Thanks for watching this week's tutorial, guys. If you like that, then click the card on screen to be shown how to create a Ghostbusters proton stream effect. If you'd like to see more from me, then hit the like button and let me know what you'd like to see me create next time in the comments down below. I'll see you all again soon.